Hi, my name is Aaron Cox, and this is my Module 5 video, Barriers to Web 2.0 for AEP 800. First of all, looking at the summary of articles, the first article, Barriers to Using Web 2.0 in 21st Century Schools, that article focuses on the use of technology in schools across the country, and the studies show that education is behind technologically when compared to a lot of businesses and industries in our country. And the main reasons given for that were teacher focus. So in the article they talked about teachers having a lack of time, so not having enough time to learn how to implement strategies and technologies in the classroom, and then also lack of training, which fits right with that example. Obviously you need the professional development time to be able to get that training, and then lack of technical support. And this one is one that I can relate to. Our school district doesn't have in-house IT department, so that means that a lot of times when we have issues with computers or the internet, we have a company come in, and that can take time. Also, a lot of things are lost in translation, so it's not very efficient or effective right now. Some other things would be lack of administrative support, and then going back to IT issues, issues with the network and infrastructure, and also fear of the unknown. Obviously, teachers that aren't comfortable with technology or different strategies, they're not going to want to implement those in the classroom very easily or quickly. All right, the second article is 7 common barriers that obstruct tech adoption in education. And this article focuses on the different barriers. The ones that I picked out of the article were having no vision. So basically that means no common goal between the district and each building within a district. Changing what a teacher's role should be. Obviously, the increase in technology would move our classrooms from teacher instructed to more student-led instruction, and that completely changes the teacher's role and can take time for teachers to get comfortable with it and also to implement. And then another barrier would be the achievement gap. And in my opinion, obviously we have the achievement gap with traditional education. Even when you introduce technology, you're still going to have an achievement gap. So finding ways to close this gap is still going to be an issue and be a challenge. Scaling promising innovations, and basically this just means taking good strategies, taking effective technology, and making it so that it can be used building-wide or district-wide. And then, of course, a major issue whenever technology is brought up is funding, and then curriculum beyond textbooks, basically getting people to let go of the textbooks and focus more on strategies and content that is technology-based. And then the last one is infrastructure. All right, looking at the third article, the digital divide, this basically focuses on the challenge of 25% of our population not having access to broadband internet. And two of the reasons for that is, number one, people can't afford it, and then number two, people either live where access is not very good or they just don't want internet access. The last article, Open Education Resources, focuses on free resources that you can find on the internet that are available for teachers. And obviously this can be a big positive because when you are implementing technology in your classroom, a lot of times you don't have a lot of free resources that are available. So over the last 5 to 10 years, free resources have been increasing, which is obviously helpful to teachers and school districts, because now you can use these resources instead of having to spend a lot of money to get access to them. All right, let's get into the questions. So First of all, do I feel the digital divide can be resolved? I feel that it can't be resolved 100%. I mean, just like many issues out there, you're always going to have somebody that doesn't have access to the internet. But I do feel that the divide can be improved. So some ways to close the divide is to provide access for all students in school. And what I mean by that is schools need to have the technology that they feel like students need access to in all of their schools, and it needs to be quality, up-to-date technology. If that happens, then obviously students are going to be able to have access in schools, and even though they might not be able to go home and complete the homework or do activities, if administrators and teachers are aware of who does not have access, accommodations can be made so that when they're in school, they're still getting to use this type of technology and they're able to have that equal access, because obviously we can't control what a student has access to at home, but we can at school, and that will help make it more equal for everybody. The next question is, what skill sets do I feel 21st century students must acquire prior to graduation? There's two major skills. Number one is basic computer skills. So obviously learning how to type, use of software programs, Word documents, PowerPoint presentations, and then also navigation of web browsers and digital citizenship. So obviously how to use technology and the internet and use it effectively. And I think all of these skills can be taught within regular content by all the teachers through the different assignments and strategies, lesson plans that the students are completing. And then also another skill that I think is very, very important, and that is teaching communication skills through the use of technology. And I'm not talking about the text message language. I'm talking about being able to send an email to a prospective employer or send a professional email or communication to somebody else. So I think that these are also communication skills that can be taught within the regular classroom. Obviously today we know that many students struggle with being able to communicate correctly because of texting, and so I think that's something that classroom teachers need to work into their content and teach. What impact has the global economy had on my personal use of the internet? For me, the economy hasn't had any impact. I can relate to geography causing issues since I grew up in the middle of Kansas, in the country, and so we did not have a lot of access to the internet and early on in high school. We did have the dial-up, but I'm not always a very patient person, so I really didn't even use it that much just because it took so long. But after I left home and went to college, I've always had access to the internet and rely on it heavily today. At home, we don't even have cable. I stream everything, so it really hasn't had an impact as far as how much money I make. I feel like sometimes there's cheaper ways to be able to get the internet and use that versus using cable. All right, what technology training do I need to effectively integrate technology in my current position? For me, I have been integrating technology quite a bit within all of my content areas, so the biggest help would be my school going one-to-one. That way the students have access to computers all the time. One barrier that we have in our school is that we just have computer cards, and so teachers have to sign up for the computer cards whenever they need to use them in class, and we don't have enough cards for everybody to have computers every day. So if you're a teacher that's trying to use Google Classroom or use websites in your class every day, you're not going to be able to. So that would help me the most. And then also just continuing to get on-the-job training with Google Classroom, and I started using Kia, which is an online testing site. And really, I've just learned the fastest by just jumping in and doing it. And I'm also surrounded by some very good social studies teachers, so I learned quite a bit from them during content collaboration. And then also professional development. We do have some really good sessions that focus on using technology, so that's helped. And that goes into my positives for USD 232 and Mill Valley High School. So I would rate the school district as a whole 6 out of 10. And the reason why we're lower on the rating than I gave is because we aren't one-to-one. So like I said, we don't have unlimited access to computers for our students. So that makes it tough in my eyes to be rated high as a 21st century technology school. Now, some of the positives though, we do have a large portion of professional development that's dedicated to technology implementation, and our principals really do place an emphasis on technology. So the negatives is being able to solve the access issue. And from the talk that's been going around, we probably won't be one-to-one, at least for the next couple of years. So this is going to be an issue that's going to continue. And then because of that, there's not a consistent district technology plan across the board. The advantages of innovative practices in schools: obviously student-led learning, more of the authentic learning, and also going into that development of real-world skills that the students can relate to and are engaged in. And then also critical thinking using technology, the ease of access for students and parents. What I mean by that is, if classes are online with their assignments and with their calendars and agendas, then obviously students are able to access the materials a lot easier if they have internet access at home, but also when they're in other classes or during their study hall time. And then with parents, they're able to access these sites as well. And then I feel like for me, I can provide quicker communication and feedback when grading. Disadvantages that I see, obviously with funding, that's an issue when it comes to technology. And if you are dedicating money to technology, then more than likely that money is going to come from a different program or a different department, so that can create issues. Then providing time for training and planning. Obviously teachers need to know how to use the technology, so you have to have that time. And then providing adequate technical support. I talked about this one earlier, but this is a big issue. If you have a large school or a large school district, you have to be able to have on-site IT people that can provide that help. And then administration and staff forming a shared plan. This was one that was in one of the articles, and I think it's very important. If a building is not on the same page as far as their technology plan, then it's not going to be very successful. And then teaching digital citizenship and appropriate use to students. Obviously, students need to know how to use the technology appropriately, and really also understand why they're using it in school. How can you become an effective student using technology? Have you experienced problems with cyberbullying or other inappropriate use with students? I really haven't experienced it firsthand, but I did have a student on my team when I was teaching middle school about 5 years ago that sent an inappropriate picture to another student, and it was a male student that sent the picture to a female student. She was caught showing the picture to other students during lunch, and so that resulted in the male student being suspended. And I also, when I taught middle school, I had homeroom, and during that time once a week we would teach digital citizenship and cyberbullying prevention, which I thought for the most part was pretty effective. I hope you enjoyed my video. Thank you. Bye.